You're listening to Inside the Village, where all news is local and no topic is off limits.
So help me, Bob, it's bully in the alley. Hey, bully in the alley. So help me, Bob.
This is Inside the Village for the week of July 20th, 2023. Michael Friscolanti, editor-in-chief here at Village Media, is here. Derek Turner, executive producer of the show, is here. And I'm Scott Sexsmith, and I'm here too, back for another week. How's it going?
You're here too, yeah?
I am here too.
Busy day for you, eh?
Very busy day. Derek and I had the pleasure of hanging out with Michael Amadio, Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup champ.
Former guest.
Former guest of the show.
Yes.
Let me bend down and pick up that name I just dropped. And the Stanley Cup was in town.
Town today, yeah. I saw that headline, Stanley Cup coming to town today.
I saw it a few
times. You know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many times every year, everyone gets their day with the Cup or whatever, but there's just still something special about the Cup coming to town. I think the last time it was here almost 20 years ago, right? When Kennedy from the Penguins won it?
Well, we were having that chat. Was it Kennedy or Jordan Nolan?
Oh, no, Jordan Nolan was here in 2011,
okay.
right? Yeah, that's right. You're right.
And Trevor Daley? Did Trevor?
I don't think he ever won.
Okay.
But he's not from here originally, is he?
He lives here, though.
Yes, but he's not. He was a Greyhound. Anyways, I digress.
All right. No, it was a great day. Very exciting.
Big crowd at the Gardens?
Huge crowd.
Yeah.
Huge crowd. And we should mention a couple of things. First of all, people are under the impression that, each player gets the Stanley Cup for 24 hours. And that's not really true. I believe that 24-hour allotment includes travel time for the Cup to get to the destination, right? So our understanding is the Cup actually flew into town this morning, went right to the arena where the crowd was, and then at 10 o'clock tonight, it's back on a plane.
Okay.
Going to the next destination.
Like flying commercial, or does it have its own jet?
I would think, and this would be a great question for our guest today, who is a talented musician but also a WestJet pilot. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you'd want to fly the Stanley Cup commercial.
I feel like I've seen photos of the famous guy who's always with the Cup, the hair.
Phil Pritchard.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen him sitting on a plane with it buckled beside him. I don't know if it's a joke or.
I think that might have been like a MasterCard commercial.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. They always tell the truth, don't they?
I
credit cards.
Fair point. Here's the question: Would you trust an airline with the Stanley Cup and not to lose it?
Well, remember, there's replicas. This is a replica Cup. It's not the original.
Okay, but there's only like 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, but I mean, if a replica Stanley Cup crashed into the ocean, would anyone care? There's other. If the original one, the original one's like a priceless item, right? If that one, but my fake cup.
I'll tell you one thing: Phil Pritchard's thrown an Apple AirTag in the case.
Yeah. Maybe
he's tracking that bad boy.
I understand too that Michael Amadio's family was very complimentary of our interview with him on his Village, which is really all that matters.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it is about 3 of us. Let's be honest. I mean, Stanley Cup. Yeah.
So Michael did not come by here for that drink.
He is not coming by. He did send his regrets. But yeah, great people, great family. His father, Paul, wonderful guy.
Awesome.
Had a nice chat with him. The other thing that I want to point out, because I know there were a lot of people and probably going to be some disappointed ones that didn't get a chance because the timeline was so tight, that the players aren't obligated to do anything in a public setting.
Yes.
Some of them just take it home and hang out with it
for sure
for a few hours and then it goes.
Yeah.
But Mike and his family wanted to make sure that as many people as possible in the community got to see it. So very cool and good on him. Exciting. Cool. Yeah, very cool. Okay, as we segue into the first word to Frisco, it is only fitting that when one makes an error that they cop to it.
That's right.
And as Derek proved last week with some wonderful editing skills, we did in fact repeat that session.
You.
Okay.
I was right. You were wrong.
You were right. I was wrong. I was obviously distracted. But there's a lot of moving pieces to this show that people don't see.
It's true. Yeah.
While one of us, is talking, the other's, making notes and handing things to Derek.
It happens, yeah. So then we straighten the mug a little bit.
Yeah, we got brand new.
There's lots going on.
Brand new mugs.
It's true. There is some. I don't know if that's the reason why that happened. No. I don't want to give you an excuse that you can use, but it might have been that reason.
No, I probably just wasn't paying attention. Anyway. That was my bad, and I'm going to own that. So now,
but it did make for great editing. That thing,
it really did.
It was funny.
It really did.
It was funny.
Okay, let's move to the first word to Frisco. I don't want to screw this up 2 weeks in a row. An amazing car story out of Stratford today, and our great reporter down there, Connor Luchka.
Yeah, you know what? We cover a lot of car shows and the like in our pages of our website, right? There's car shows, community parades, all kinds of picnics and festivals, especially in the summertime. And, as journalists, we're always kind of talking about what's the best way to cover these, because we don't want to just go to these events and take a bunch of photos. And Connor kind of taught a little bit of a journalism class on how to cover these things. He went to this event in Stratford, talked to a lot of people there, and found this couple that owned this 1937 Buick Roadmaster and said, aha, here's the story. This couple somehow along the line got a hold of this car. It originally belonged to former New York Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, LaGuardia Airport, right?
Wild.
That's a whole other story, how this poor guy is synonymous with this terrible airport now. But anyways, it turned out that this car had Franklin Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, Harry Truman, even Winston Churchill sat in this car at one point, right? And then now this couple has it's theirs. They own it. They bought it, I think, through an auction of somehow. But just telling that story and listening to these people talk about it with such passion really made that story. So it still had all the great photos of the cool cars that were in town, but that story really stuck out, and he told it well.
All right. To Burlington we go, and the Bay is leaving the local mall.
Yeah. You know what? We talk a lot about scoops, right, on this show, and some scoops are bigger than others, obviously. But this was a classic example of a big local story, a big local scoop. One of our reporters there, Chris Arnold, was hearing some Facebook chatter about the fact that the Bay was going to close down in the local mall there, the Burlington Center, and started chasing down the rumors, chasing down the chatter. His fellow reporter there, Julie Slack, went to the scene, grabbed some photos, talked to some people there to get some background on what was going on. And they broke the story. Fairly big city, Burlington, and the fact that the Bay's leaving was pretty significant. We had it up there hours before everybody else, and when the competition finally caught up, it pretty much read like our story. They pretty much copied the whole thing. It was just a great example of, it's easy for people to think that we just it just happens, the news, right? But the news takes some digging sometimes. And this is an example of, we didn't break Watergate here, but it's a big story in the community that the Bay is leaving. So they did a great job, and I was proud of them, and I think they were proud of themselves.
Good for them. Homelessness and addictions, a huge issue all over the place this week in Timmins.
Yeah, we talked a lot about this on the show, and it's obviously one of the biggest issues facing a lot of our communities. I can't think of a city in North America that's not dealing with the opioid crisis. Timmins is one of those where the light gets put on them a lot. Some national publications have written about the issue in Timmins. They have a very high overdose rate, high usage rates. But Maya Haggith there does a great job of covering the issues that sort of come up throughout that. So, for example, they have a supervised consumption site there. The city promised that if they did not receive Health Canada approval or provincial funding after the first year, they would continue to fund it. Well, now that clock has ticked, and we're at that point.
Right.
So now the city's on the hook for $85,000 a month for who knows how long, depending on whether they get any further funding. So she's on top of that story explaining it. Even in some ways, even more fascinating, there's been a real movement there to move a homeless shelter, an emergency shelter, out of a particular neighborhood. Some residents complaining about what's going on, raises a lot of ethical issues about, do you have these facilities in the neighborhoods where people need them, or do you try to put them out in the middle of nowhere where people might not be able to access them, right? So apparently City Council, as Maya reported, voted 8-1 to look into the issue. And there's a lot of people happy, people on Facebook, with the Facebook group there, and some people who have been protesting are happy that it's going to move. But to me, it really raises a lot of issues about how we deal with homelessness and addictions in all of our communities. And I think it's critically important that we have reporters like Maya telling these stories and keeping our people in those communities up to date on what's happening. And so I say it all the time, but that is local journalism to a T, and she's doing a great job.
Yep, and 3 great examples there. Okay, let's move to the first word to Frisco. See, I had to do it.
Oh, Scott.
I know. You're not the first to say that, trust me. Great show today. Mike Haggith is going to join us. Not a household name, but Mike is a full-time pilot, part-time musician, and has probably one of the most unique stories of a musician that we've heard in some time.
Yeah, and let's lay it out there, is that this guy went viral for a little while because he thought he broke his leg on stage, fell down, and kept playing his guitar. And a lot of people have seen the video, so now we're going to hear the full story. It's pretty wild.
All right, can't wait. Mike Haggith next when Inside the Village returns right after this.
Reporters, editors, and journalists who go the extra mile to get the story and get it right. Go behind the scenes with those who cover the stories that matter most to you and your community. Look for it in the Village Features section of your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
Welcome back to Inside the Village with Michael Friscolanti, Editor-in-Chief here at Village Media. I'm Scott Sexsmith on the line from Barrie, Ontario. Mike Haggith is joining us. Mike, welcome to Inside the Village. Great to have you here today.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
Now, Mike, obviously not yet a household name, but let's give the backstory. Recently, you played a show in Sault Ste. Marie for that community's annual event called Rotaryfest. We'll get to that and what happened in a minute. But let's back up and maybe talk about how your music career started.
Yeah, absolutely. So from the age I was like 4 years old, I always knew exactly what I was going to do with my life. I was going to be an airline pilot, and I was going to make music when I wasn't flying, and that's exactly what I do now. So it's a bit of a dream come true. I started recording when I was 13 years old. Started with a cassette tape that I will never let anybody hear because it was just the most horrible thing I think I've ever done by far. But through the years, I've gotten better. I've played more and more, recorded a ton of albums. Lived in Sault Ste. Marie, Thompson, Manitoba, and now here in Barrie, Ontario. And every album seems a little bigger and better than the last, and maybe headline-wise too with this new one.
So you're a pilot too?
Yeah, that's right.
Who do you fly for? Are you just private, or what do you do?
No, I fly for WestJet. Actually.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I moved to Sault Ste. Marie for flight school and ended up spending 7 years there. It was just such a beautiful place, such great people, and that's really where I kind of came into my own making music.
A part of me was hoping you were going to say Air Canada. Because we would have had a totally separate discussion.
It's interesting how we both knew what we wanted to do since we were four. My dream was always to sit across from a table with Scott since I was 4. Yeah. So it's good to see we're both
dreams do come true.
Dreams come true. That's good to know. We're living the dream. That's amazing.
There we go.
So you're in Barrie, and when I read the coverage of what happened, part of the thing that caught my attention was Rotaryfest was a big deal for you. You're excited to launch your new album with Rotaryfest. So this was weeks in the works. Like, how long ago did you know you were going to be playing this show?
We had worked it out a couple of months beforehand because they obviously need time to finalize the lineup, print all the stuff, and the booklets go out all over the region. There's a lot that goes into it. So I'd been working on this album for like 3 years, and
Wow.
So when they said, "Hey, we're wondering if you want to play," I was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer, and that finally got me off the couch working on the record. So I thought it would be a great way to tie it all in together.
Amazing. And are you a solo guy, or do you have a band?
I do my albums solo, so I play everything on there and program whatever instruments I don't have. Like I don't have a cello, so I got to program that in. Sure. But and then when I play live, like for the show in the Sioux, I have a band up there.
Amazing.
And they come out and play.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It was it Thursday night or Friday night last week?
Thursday night, July 13th, 6 p.m.
Stage one.
Stage one, baby.
Tens of thousands of people in the crowd, right?
Were you feeling good leading up to the show? Everything seemed normal?
I was feeling great. Yeah, like we had done so much work going into this thing. It had just been nonstop for months leading up to it, right? All leading up to this moment. And I was excited to just forget about all the garbage that I'd been doing behind the scenes to, facilitate all of this. And I was excited to just go up and play. The band was tight. We were ready, feeling good. This was our moment.
And how many songs in did all hell break loose?
2 songs in. We were 8 minutes into the set.
All right, walk us through it.
Yeah, so what happened here?
Oh man, so we stepped on stage. Everything was great. We were the opening act for Rotary 100. So they had just made their opening announcements. They introduced, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Step into the mystical world of Mike Haggith or something like that. I forget exactly what the promo said. And then we jogged right on, picked up the guitar, boom, we're right into it. We do the first song, All You Do. which is largely acoustic number. I'm kind of up there. I'm leading the charge. I'm thinking my voice sounds good tonight. I'm feeling great. I got a Gatorade down there if I need to hydrate. And it just, and man, everything leading up to it, it just felt so right. And I even thought to myself in that moment, man, look at all of this. Nothing can take away from this.
All right. We'll end the show there. That was great.
Oh, man. So then song number 2, Hot and Cold. And man, the full band, we're into it. We crash in. It's a really cool tune. A lot of energy, a lot of momentum. There are 2 guitar solo sections. Chris, our lead guitarist, is just killing it. Everything is going great. We're just about done the second guitar solo section, and I think, well, okay, like I'm doing my little kind of cursory walk around the stage and go up to Chris and play next to him, go up to Jake, our bassist, play next to him, and then I go back and say hey to our buddy Brandon on the drums, and kind of say hey to him, and the solo section's wrapping up, the song's about to wrap up. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll turn around, I'll go back up to the front of the stage, and we'll crash out the big ending chords. And then we're on to the next 9 songs, and everything's great. And then I have 1 foot up on the drum riser, 1 foot down on the stage. And I don't know exactly how it happened. I felt like maybe the heel of my shoe got caught on something, but maybe I just started turning awkwardly. I had my weight distributed a little weird, something. Anyway, next thing I know, my body's turning and my leg is not. And before I know exactly it's so fast that you don't have time to process. And the next thing I knew, my knee snapped and I'm going down.
Yikes.
So I had 2 thoughts in that moment.
I think I know what one of them would be.
The first thought was, this is Chris's guitar. Do not smash the guitar. And so I kind of tucked and rolled and tucked my arms in and came crashing down. Not a scratch on the guitar.
It was impressive how you felt. That was impressive.
Yeah. Pure luck or the furthest thing from it. I don't know what you call it. And then my second thought was, you got to be kidding me, man. Yeah. Everything leading up to this, and it's ruined.
Yeah. But your third thought was you kept playing. The show must go on.
Show must go on.
Well, yeah. So then all of a sudden I'm laying on the ground in excruciating pain, but the boys thought it was part of the act, the theatrics or the antics. I do dumb stuff sometimes. So I'm just kind of rolling around there, and I just start playing again because the song is not over yet. So we still got to crash out on these chords. And I got videographers there and stuff too. I'm like, well, I know they're recording the audio off the board. At the very least, let's give them 2 good songs that sound good without me screaming. Uh-huh. So yeah, no, I bite my tongue, whatever. And then Chris, our lead guitarist, he looks over at me. I'm writhing around on the floor, but I'm still playing. And I look up at him and I'm like, I broke my leg.
Yeah, you could hear it. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, that's crazy.
And he laughs. He doesn't believe me. He thinks I'm just being an idiot. So he turns back around and starts walking away to crash out on ring out those final chords. And I'm like, oh no, where are you going? And then Jake, our bass player, comes up to me and I go, I broke my leg. Now, and he, because it's obviously very loud on stage, he thought he heard me say, I'm okay. But so he laughed and turned around too.
Oh my God.
Come on.
Good buddies.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I could need some new friends, Mike.
Oh man. So we finished the song. I'm letting the chords ring out. My leg is my right leg is just twisted up at the knee. That video was that everybody saw was actually from Jake, our bass player's live stream. He shot it on stage, so it's actually reversed. It looks like I screwed up my left leg. It's one of those front camera things, right? So then they come over and they give me their hands to help me up, and that's when I waved them off of no, we need medics.
Oh man.
And then they knew. So we stopped the show. The medics came up. It was an awesome response. They were with me right away. they kind of held my leg there, it stabilized it a bit, but there wasn't anything that they could do until an ambulance got there. And then they got word that an ambulance was 10 minutes out. And I was like, well, 10 minutes from now. I said, okay, well, what drugs can you give me? And they were like, well, we're just event paramedics. We don't carry any drugs, right? Because obviously theft would be a big issue. Yeah. I was like, so you got no drugs for me? And the ambulance is 10 minutes out. They said, and the guy who's kind of standing over me, he goes, I know it sounds so stupid, but if you can really just try not to focus on the pain, that would help. And I was like, well, is the crowd still there? And he said, well, Mike, they're not going anywhere. And I said, okay, well, then lay a guitar on top of me. And we played a third song with me on my back.
I didn't see that part. That's why.
Yeah, that was in a separate live video. I can text that to you
that
after.
Is crazy.
But we sounded just as good as when I'm upright and not in excruciating pain. But man, it felt like I got shot right in the knee.
Well, I was gonna say, like, when you first fell and you kept playing, like, the pain must have been pretty overwhelming. How did you keep playing?
It was horrible, man. It was pure adrenaline, but it was just, we had so much on that show. You know, we had done so much work. I had been waiting, just, you know, sitting there shaking for months leading up to this thing. And like, as soon as I crashed down, I was like, well, I'm here, I'm gonna keep playing. And I was trying to, like, convince myself, like, hey man, like, you could probably make it through the show. You might just have to do it laying down. But the pain was just excruciating. And I don't know. I mean, it was almost just I felt like I was just kind of in a fog at that point. Like, it's just, you're in so much pain, and you know, the only thing that hurt more was the knee, was just the realization that, you know, the show was cooked.
Yeah. I did see a photo of you raising your arms as they carried you off the stage, right? Like, giving the crowd one more, letting them know you're okay.
Yeah. You know, once they laid the guitar on me, they had the microphone there. I was kind of just talking a little bit. I was like, man, well, I'm pretty devastated. I'm in a lot of pain here, but you guys are great for sticking around or whatever. And as we're going off, I gave him the horns and all that, and a little thank you, good night from the stretcher.
Well, it's funny. It's funny how, you know, I don't know anything about music. I'm useless to talk about music, and so I'm sure you're a great musician, Mike. But I would not have heard of you if not for this incident. So maybe this has got a little bit of a blessing in disguise. What do you think?
Well, you know, it was a quite the cloud to fly through. So if there's a bit of a silver lining, then that's I won't say no to it.
What's the prognosis, Mike, as far as the leg goes? How long are you off work? That kind of stuff.
It's immobilized, splinted. I'm on crutches. Keep as much weight off it as I can. We're looking at 4 to 6 weeks with physio and ortho.
Wow!
And it's a dislocated knee right in the end. Is what happened?
Yeah. So it ended up being that the knee had dislocated, but in a really rare way. I guess knee dislocations in and of itself are pretty rare injuries, and then the way that this knee dislocated in this instance was extremely rare. Yeah. So there you go. I'm a 1 in a million artist.
In two different ways. Oh
man.
Yeah. What did the hospital staff think, Mike? I mean, it's not every day someone shows up and says, "Oh, I hurt myself playing in the band at Rotaryfest."
Oh man. Well, so the Sault area hospital, everybody was really nice. I mean, obviously they're kind of grappling with the same issues that every Ontario healthcare place is, right? So, you know, it was a little bit slow to get going, but it was funny actually. The X-ray tech who was on that night is a good friend of mine and had been watching the show live.
Like,
so
at
if
the
you go
show?
back and you watch the live stream, his comment pops up the second I go down, and he goes, "Oh man, Mike, I'll see you soon." And then
book a room, Haggith is coming in.
I'll pre-register you at the counter. What's your health card number?
Yeah. Oh man. And then the second video, where you know, Jake titled it "Show Must Go On," and he started it by going, "Well, Mike said he's going to play with a broken leg, so here we go." And he put the camera down, and you see us playing again. That one where I'm on my back. he commented on that one, and he goes, "Well, scratch that, Mike. I'll see you in an hour."
Yeah.
So he was
crazy.
expecting me. So the imaging went pretty quickly, but then I sat there for about an hour and a half waiting for a doctor. And this in hindsight is probably the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. But the adrenaline was still flowing, and I really had to go to the bathroom. So I told the nurse, "So just lower the guardrail on the side of the bed. I'm going to go to the washroom." And she said, "Well, how? Like, you need a wheelchair?" I was like, no, I feel fine. I limped to the washroom and back. And then I was like, "Well, I could walk okay. You got my scans. Call me if anything's broken." And I signed myself out and left.
No, you did?
Yeah.
Were you trying to get back to the stage or what?
No, at that point, like all of our friends were just kind of waiting in limbo to see what was going on. And I was like, "Well, everybody, I'm hungry, so let's go get a beer and some wings." So that's what we did.
Where'd you go?
We went to Wacky Wings. It was not too far from the hospital.
After a wacky night, head off to Wacky Wings. So I got to ask you, Mike, so obviously it's spread on Facebook because the live streams were going on, but then Sault Today the next day, Ken Armstrong did a piece. It also ran down in Barrie and on some other village sites. Did you get a ton of reaction from that after the story kind of got out there?
A little bit more. So, I mean, like I had been carted off the stage. I rode to the hospital that night in an ambulance, and by the time I got to the hospital, I mean, I had about 40 messages or whatever, just like, "Oh my God, dude, I saw what happened," or "I heard," or whatever, right? And then there was a little bit more once the story went. And then after that second video of us playing that third song with me on my back, a lot of people started to share that.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh man, I didn't know about that part."
I didn't know about that part either.
Yeah, so that was kind of fun. Once you're kind of laid up, obviously I had to go back to the hospital the next day. My knee swelled up to the size of a grapefruit.
Yeah.
Imagine that. You shouldn't walk on an injury.
No.
And so then the next day at the hospital, they splinted it, gave me the crutches, gave me the note and all that. But everybody, like even at the hospital, one of the triage nurses came to get me, and as we were walking, she was like, "Yeah, I read about that." I was like, "Yeah,
that is
it's
hilarious.
not fun."
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So do you hope to get back up to Rotaryfest next summer?
Oh, I hope so. I really, really do. I want to do it right. It was, I was so looking forward to it, and
maybe play in a chair, Mike.
Yeah, well, so I do have a festival booked for next month, and so I am going to be sitting down for that one.
Good.
The band said they might try to build me a little throne or something to sit on, and we'll do that.
Amazing.
Well, it'll be great to see you back on stage, but we certainly won't say break a leg.
No, you know what? That's the best part. Is this year only one person told me to break a leg before I went on. Usually I get like 50 of those. Hey, break a leg, break a leg. This year I only got one, and as I was going down, I was like, I don't believe in it. I broke a leg. This happened a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, we won't say that, but we will say best of luck with everything. Mike Haggith, it's a great story. We're glad you're okay and hope to see you next year back at Rotaryfest. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
For the latest in in-depth features and enterprise journalism from your local writers at Village Media, be sure to check out The Big Read. The Big Read. It's the full story behind the headlines. Look for The Big Read on your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
Back to wrap on another episode of Inside the Village alongside Michael Friscolandi, and Scott Sexsmith. I want to bring in executive producer Derek Turner, who is a fine musician in his own right. Derek, Mike, you're a musician yourself. How hard was it for him to do what he did and not literally skip a beat?
It's very impressive. My band also played at Rotaryfest. We were there on the Saturday, and among the musicians, everyone was talking about the injury he suffered on Thursday night, and we're stepping very gingerly on the stage, I think, after after what had happened. But the fact that he could still sing is what really impressed me, because you know that he wanted to scream with the excruciating pain that he was in. So hats off to Mike for continuing the show and for playing that last song. And I know how disappointing it must feel now with, like he said, all the work that he put in to get ready for the show, to launch his new album, and now he'll have a story to tell forever about it.
Well, it kind of reminds me of, remember Armando Galarraga's almost perfect game with the Tigers when he had 26 up, 26 down.
No.
And you don't remember, like 2010, he's got 26 outs, ground ball to first base, and Galarraga covers first. Guy's clearly out by a step. Calls him safe.
Blew it.
Blows it before instant replay.
Yeah.
Well, no one would remember Armando Galarraga. Not that no one would remember Mike Haggith, but no one would remember Armando Galarraga if he got a perfect game.
No.
But everyone remembers that he didn't get a perfect game.
Right.
So sometimes it's those colossal things that happen that are actually better in the long run, right? And for Mike, I mean, it's great. It's terrible what happened to him, but it's in a way it's shining a little bit of spotlight on his music and who he is, and obviously a great guy who enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, it was terrific. He was channeling. Is it Angus Young, Derek, AC/DC, that plays on his back? Yeah. And it got us talking in the office earlier today, knowing that we were going to talk to Mike about some of the greatest performances of all time through injury. And you know, I think of Tiger Woods at the 2008 U.S. Open, playing with a broken leg. Kirk Gibson, yes. Right? Home run, bottom of the ninth, with two horrendous knees. Yeah. Derek, what was it? Dave Grohl?
Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, very eerily similar to what happened to Mike. Broke his leg on stage early on in the night. I think he finished that concert from a wheelchair, sitting down playing guitar and singing. Wow. And then they made this, like Mike was saying, a throne for him, similar to the throne on Game of Thrones, if anybody's seen that television show, but instead of swords, they use guitar necks. Nice. And that throne actually got used a second time when Axl Rose was on tour with Guns N' Roses with a broken leg or broken ankle, and Dave Grohl lent him the throne to use for his tour as well.
Crazy.
Did you mention Bobby Bond?
I was just going to say, would you not say that was probably the greatest playing through injury?
Well, I don't know a lot about it, but the fact that you break your leg and go back on the ice is pretty wild.
And win a Stanley Cup.
He won the Stanley Cup.
In the process.
Right? Yeah.
That's wild.
I got to tell you a crazy story about Kirk Gibson.
Do it.
Years ago, for another story I was working on, I interviewed one of the scouts for the Dodgers at the time. And we were talking about something else, a story I was working on. And then he told me, he goes, well, do you know my Kirk Gibson story? And I said, no, tell me. And his job in the playoffs that year for the Dodgers was to do the advanced scouting for whoever they could play in the next round. So when he was assigned to do Oakland, just in case the Dodgers made it to the World Series and Oakland made it to the World Series, and he spent every game watching the Dodgers and noting their consistencies, whatever. And during the pre-game scouting reports, he made clear to the team that if Dennis Eckersley has a full count on a left-handed batter, he's going to throw you a backdoor slider, which means so if Gibson's batting left-handed, backdoor slider means it starts on the outside and just comes in to carve the outside corner.
Right.
So 3-2 count to a left-handed batter, it's going to be a backdoor slider. Gibson knew a backdoor slider was coming. He hit the home run, and of course Vin Scully with the famous call, I don't believe what or someone else, it wasn't Scully's call is different. Gibson ran into the clubhouse and grabbed this guy. And he's a Texan. He goes, and this guy used to say partner all the time. I got your partner. Yeah. And he goes, I got your partner. I got 3-2 slider, backdoor slider. And that's a Kirk. I did not know that.
Isn't that something?
I did not know that story about Kirk Gibson, but Gibby knew that the 3-2 slider was coming. So I guess you could be injured, but if you have the right information, you'll be all right.
Information is power and knowledge, right?
Wild story. Yeah.
There was another one too. A female gymnast in the U.S. I think it was in the Olympics. Broken ankle.
Was that Comaneci?
No. U.S. You're thinking Nadia Comaneci, 76 Olympics in Montreal.
Yes.
Can't remember her name, but she landed this amazing with a broken ankle and won gold medal. Name escapes me. If you've played through injury, tell us about it. ITV at villagemedia.ca. We'll share your story with the world. Absolutely. Maybe even have you on the show. ITV at villagemedia.ca. You can get back episodes of the program wherever you get your favorite podcasts across the Village Media Network. And, of course, at insidethevillage.ca. Derek, as always, thank you, sir. Michael Friscolanti, Editor-in-Chief, thank you, sir. And I'm Scott Sexsmith. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to Inside the Village.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe, provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.